वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाह जी। तो गाइज़ वेलकम बैक अनदर व्लॉग। राइट नाउ मैं हूँ वाटर फ्रंट पे केप टाउन में और राइट नाउ मैं लेने लगा हूँ टिकट फॉर रोबन आयरलैंड। सो लेट्स सी, देखते हैं और कैसा रहता है हमारा एक्सपीरियंस। आई होप यू विल लाइक दिस वीडियो एंड यू विल एंजॉय इट। ओके, लेट्स गो। तो गाइस मॉल के अंदर ये एक टिकट सेंटर बना हुआ है, यहाँ से हम टिकट परचेज़ करेंगे और हमारा जर्नी जो है वो कंटिन्यू करेंगे। तो लेट्स सी जी। तो गाइस टिकट फाइनली मैंने बाय कर ली है और जो कि मुझे पड़ी है AED अराउंड 150 dirham की, और डॉलर में या पाकिस्तानी करेंसी में आप लोग कन्वर्ट कर लीजिएगा। तो इंशाल्लाह टुमारो हमारी राइड होगी जो है रोबन आइलैंड के लिए। केप टाउन का जो ये वाटर फ्रंट है, यहाँ से हमारी राइड शुरू होगी और रोबन आइलैंड पे लेके जाएंगे। और एक हमें टूर गाइडर मिलेगा जो हमें एक्सप्लेन करेगा उसकी कंप्लीट हिस्ट्री के बारे में, अबाउट एवरीथिंग नेल्सन मंडेला। और फिर जो है हम वापस आएंगे अपनी राइड लेके दोबारा फिर इधर जो वाटर फ्रंट है उसके पास। तो आई होप यू विल बी लाइक दिस जर्नी। सो लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपन विल टुमारो। और गाइज राइट नाउ मैं जिस जगह पे खड़ा हूँ ये वाटर फ्रंट के बिल्कुल पास ही शॉपिंग मॉल्स बने हुए हैं और काफ़ी खूबसूरत अट्रैक्टिव पॉइंट है। तो आप देख सकते हैं कि लोगों का काफ़ी आना जाना लगा हुआ है यहाँ पे। तो चलें आप भी देखें मेरे साथ, बहुत ही अमेजिंग प्लेस है ये। अच्छा जी, तो गाइज़ वो हमारे सामने टेबल माउंटेन का जो है वो फ्रेम आ गया, टेबल माउंटेन। और आप पीछे देख सकते हैं कि टेबल माउंटेन भी आपको दिखाई दे रही होगी। तो ये टेबल माउंटेन का जो है वो फ्रेम बना हुआ है जो अक्सर आपने यूट्यूब पे या सोशल मीडिया पे देखा होगा। आप देख सकते हैं कि विजिटर्स का कितना रश है इधर। ये काफ़ी सेफ एरिया है केप टाउन बनिस्बत अदर स्टेट्स के। आप देख सकते हैं कितने लोग जो हैं वो घूम रहे हैं इस एरिया में। धूप ज़्यादा होने की वजह से जो है वो कुछ लोग जो है वो दूसरी साइड पे हैं ज़्यादा। अमेजिंग। साउथ अफ्रीका की जो वाइब्स हैं वो नेचुरल आपको जो है 100% मिलेंगी और नेचुरल ब्यूटी आपको देखने के लिए मिलेगी। ये इसके पीछे आप ये देख सकते हैं कि ये जोन से हैं ये वो सारा सी पॉइंट है। और ये क्या कर रही हैं, ये तो इसके ऊपर लेट ही गई हैं आई थिंक टेबल फ्रेम पे। चलो आगे देखते हैं क्या सीन है। तो गाइस वेलकम बैक अगेन। सो आज हम जो है वो रॉबिन्सन आइलैंड के लिए राइड लेंगे। जी तो गाइस इस शिप में बैठ के हम जाएंगे रॉबिन्सन आइलैंड पे। तो चले देखते हैं कैसा रहता है हमारा जर्नी। बहुत ही अमेजिंग वेदर है।
C'est comme les cours.
Moi, je suis jamais allée.
There's a light attached, which is activated in water. And a whistle, which you can use to attract attention to yourself. On each life jacket, there is a red strap attached, which you can use to attach yourself.
Places that are this pilgrimage, a symbol of freedom.
तो गाइज़ अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह फाइनली हम अराइव्ड हो चुके हैं इधर रॉबिन्सन आइलैंड पे। और आप देख सकते हैं कितना ज़्यादा क्राउड है इधर, बहुत ज़्यादा रश है विजिटर्स का। और ये दूसरी लाइन जो है वो वापस जाने वालों की है। ये सारे लोग जो हैं वो वापस जाएंगे इसी शिप पे बैठ के जिस पे हम आए हैं। आप देख सकते हैं कितना ज़्यादा रश है इधर विजिटर्स का। ये पीक सीज़न है साउथ अफ्रीका में जो है वो विजिटर्स का। धूप काफ़ी ज़्यादा है इधर। चलें देखते हैं कैसा रहता है हमारा एक्सपीरियंस इधर। वो सामने इसका एंट्रेंस है आइसलैंड का। रोबन लैंड। तो इधर टॉयलेट भी बने हुए हैं, वॉशरूम भी बने हुए हैं अगर किसी ने जाना हो तो। चलें आगे देखते हैं। ये बसेस खड़ी हैं, इनमें बैठना है शायद, तो जल्दी जल्दी बैठना पड़ेगा।
Good afternoon, everyone.
गुड आफ्टरनून।
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
I'm
afternoon.
Amanda.
Good
Thank you. Welcome to Robben Island Museum. My name is Amanda. Sipe, my colleague here, is going to take you straight to prison for the first part of your tour. So your tour will be divided into 2 phases. The first part is the prison tour, and then when you're done in the prison, you will then the bus will be waiting for you outside the prison, and then and then you'll be taken to for the second part of the tour around the island. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So when you offload at the prison, we will ask that you please take your personal belongings in case this is not the same bus that will come back for you. So that thank you. And just also the prison tour will be conducted by an ex-political prisoner. So he will also be sharing his personal experiences as a prisoner on this island.
माशाल्लाह बहुत प्यारी सी छोटी सी मस्जिद भी बनी हुई है रॉबन आइलैंड पे। ये आप देख सकते हैं मेरे सामने।
Alright everyone, we have arrived at the destination. So I will ask you to disembark. You will be met by your tour guide. Thank you.
You're welcome. गाइस अभी हम इंटरेस्ट पे आ गए हैं, मेन इंटरेस्ट पे आ गए हैं और इधर हमें थोड़ी देर वेट करना पड़ेगा। गाइडनर है वो आएगा और रिसीव करेगा। अच्छा तो गाइस अभी हमारा नंबर आ गया, हम अंदर इंटर होने के लिए यहाँ पे वेट करेंगे। ओके yes. तो ये हमारे टूरिस्ट गाइडर हैं आई थिंक। चलें इनको फॉलो करते हैं। साथ हवा चल रही है, शायद मेरी वॉइस जो है वो क्लियर ना आए, तो आप लोग जस्ट जो है वो वॉच करें और इन्जॉय करें।
Don't let them fry on the sun.
Thank you. वो भाई साहब कह रहे थे कि सूरज में पकने के लिए और लोग आ गए हैं इधर। बहुत ज़्यादा गर्मी है इधर, हवा भी चल रही है साथ साथ। चले अभी ये कौन सी जगह है इंटरनल यहाँ पे। अच्छा जी, ये प्रिजन के अंदर हम इंटर हो चुके हैं। I don't know how they have survived for 26 years here.
Follow me, follow me, follow
Yes,
me.
yes, we are following you. अच्छा जी, ऐसे थी प्रिजन जो है वो अंदर से। Yeah, I think interest है just देख सकते हैं आप, काफ़ी ज़्यादा रश है विजिटर्स का। ओह माय गॉड, यहाँ सूरज बहुत जोबन पे है। तो भाई इतनी गर्मी है यहाँ पे। It's too hot.
Force yourselves, have a look around. When I call, please do come in. This is where we're going to meet in this cell. You look yourself. But have a look before we start.
Cool.
Because afterwards,
Okay.
you might be tired too. There are 4 cells on inside. Have a look. When I call,
अच्छा जी गाइस, ये फर्स्ट प्रिजन जो उन्होंने बताई है, ये सामने बेड लगे हुए हैं और ये आई थिंक साथ लॉकर दिए हुए हैं सामान रखने वाले, और साथ इसके वॉशरूम था, टॉयलेट, और इधर इसका डिटेल लिखा हुआ है। search for families of extra security prisons. Where are you going? और ये सेकंड वन है, ये टॉयलेट बने हुए हैं और साथ ये सा ये शावर वाली साइड है शायद. How they have survived. Sorry. अच्छा, ये जो बर्तन थे वो यूज़ करते थे पानी के लिए, खाने के लिए. अच्छा, ये उन लोगों के नेम हैं जिन्होंने इधर टाइम स्पेंड किया अंदर प्रिजन में, और ईयर्स लिखे हुए हैं, कितने ईयर से लेके कितना टाइम तक जो है उन्होंने टाइम इधर गुजारा था. और ये आई थिंक उनकी फ़ोटोज़ भी हैं. द स्ट्रगल फॉर मेमोरी.
In prison, and I hope we had a nice trip from the mainland up to Robben Island. And I hope most of you have actually taken some photos already. You take as many photos as you want to, but you stick to the group. Don't wander off the group. You miss your boat, you sleep on the island tonight. Right?
Yes.
And then, please, you take photos as many as you want to. In confined spaces, no flashes. Right? You can take as many photos from me as you want to, but within this group, you ask them for permission. I don't want a situation where someone shouts at you, hey, what are you going to do with my damn photo? Remove it from your damn phone. Not nice hearing those words. Right? And then, my name is Tom Moses. I will be your prison tour guide. And take in what you see. You will be the ones that makes the decision whether humans were treated humanely or inhumanely. As I said, I'm an ex-political prisoner. I got arrested on the 14th of September 1976, and I was charged with sabotage, working with a bad organization, and leaving the country illegally. My trial started on the 1st of December. I pleaded not guilty. The 2nd of December, they found me guilty. The 3rd of December, they sent me to 12 years of imprisonment. And we were a group of 7, 6 were sentenced to 5 years. I was the elder, 21, becoming 22 a year. And the youngest in the group was 16 years old. Down in the harbor, where we got off the boat not so long ago, that is where we also got off the boat. Down there, the wardens awaited us with dogs, batons. We were chained, we were handcuffed, and then we were brought up to prison. Down at reception, all the paperwork done. They issued you with a prison ticket and the prison number. My prison number was 21/76. And then down there, during those years too, there were no female prisoners. There were only no white male prisoners. They were all kept on the mainland. There's only one white prisoner that was brought here. He killed for good on the 6th of September 66. They brought him here for 2.5 months. They took him back to the mainland, and that is where he perished. And down there, during those years too, there were no black wardens. Black wardens were removed from the island between 1957 and 1963. Because black wardens were seen as a threat to security during those years here on Robben Island. And during those years here too, clothing was issued on a racial basis. Coloreds and Indians were given shoes, long pants, safaris, and underwear. A black political prisoner was given a shotgun safari and no underwear. A black political prisoner was given shoes and underwear only in 1971. And in 1971, also Nelson was given shoes and underwear. Nelson and them were not treated any differently. And if you look out there, before I go there, is that food too were issued on a racial basis. In those years, coloureds and Indians in the morning were given porridge with sugar. A black prisoner porridge no sugar. Lunch for coloureds and Indians were rice, sample, bread. A black prisoner no bread. And if a warden sees you sharing your bread with a black prisoner, they will punish you, and they will punish you severely. Bread for a black prisoner in those years were a luxury. You were allowed to purchase bread only once per year, and that was Christmas time. And in those years, punishment on Robben Island was 3 meals, a day without food, 6 meals, 2 days, 9 meals were 3 days. The other form of punishment was corporal punishment, and 6 lessons were the minimum. Whether you were old or young, they meted it out. I am a victim of corporal punishment because I said at the head of prison, you can take your privileges and stick it up your ass, and that landed me in the wrong. And the other form of punishment was spare diet. Spare diet was 7 days, 14 days, and 21 days. It was rice water without salt. And the other form of punishment, the worst one, was when they take you down to isolation, they remove your clothes, your blankets, your mats, they made you sleep on the cement floor until such time they felt you had enough. And in those years too, we were allowed to see a medical doctor twice per week, a psychiatrist once per month. We had to see a psychiatrist on Robben Island because in detention they tortured you, they beat you up, they did anything just to get information from you. The moment you started talking, that is when they also ultimately killed you because they wanted more and you could not give them more. And also during those years, those doctors and those psychiatrists, at times they prescribed wrong medication, and the psychiatrists prescribed medication that turned some of us into zombies. And if it was not for those doctors without borders, a lot of us might not have made it here on Robben Island during those years. And we say thank you to a lady in South Africa called Helen Suzman and those women and men from those doctors without borders during those years here. And then during those years too, the youngest prisoner on Robben Island was 13, 14, and 15. Not a single one of them are alive today. All of them, the last 3 were buried last year. The rest of them earlier on. And in those years, the longest serving prisoner on Robben Island, his name was Jafta Masimula from the Pan-African Congress. That man also died shortly after his release from prison, and also mysteriously. And in those years on Robben Island, you see these blue stones that you just saw when you got up, walking up or coming with the bus. Those beautiful blue stones and the stones that this prison was built by prisoners and not contractors. Those men with no shoes, those men with short pants, they were the ones that mined those stones where you were going to up at Alpha 1, up at the Alpha 1 at the stone quarry. That is where those men with short pants and no shoes, up there, some of them were beaten until they fainted, some of them died, some of them crippled, and some of them fainted up there, and some of them actually cracked. Those who died, their remains were not given back to their families to be buried. Today there are women and children waking up out there asking us the question, is my father, is my son, is my brother, is my husband, is my uncle still alive? And we don't have answers for them. That is why we say that the truth and the reconciliation out there are wardens here who know where the graves are. Those men are not forthcoming. Those men actually have been granted immunity. We cannot charge them, we cannot force them. That is why we say that the Truth and the Reconciliation Commission in South Africa during those years was a farce. It never did the job that it was supposed to be doing during those years here in South Africa. It's only now that they're beginning to relook at some of the cases that were made during those years here in the country. And during those years, these cells that you just walked into, these were communal cells. In the cells, used to sleep between 60 to 70 prisoners. And if it was unrest periods, up to 100. And then the mat you see in the middle there, that mat is what prisoners slept on, a pillow with a system of 3 blankets. And in later years, the blankets were increased to 7. Then you could put front of a tree to cover yourself with during those years. Those beds you see at the back there, those beds were brought here only in 1979, 1980. As from 1965 up to 1979, men slept on those mats and 3 blankets. Whether it's summer, whether it's winter, these cells are cold. In here, a prisoner could talk. In here, a prisoner could sing. Down there, down there, you were not allowed to speak to one another in the cells. The cupboards that you see here were built in 77, 78 for prisoners to put their study material in here. And those interim systems too were built in 77, 78 for prisoners to listen to what prisoners were saying or doing. But over the weekend, prisoners were also allowed to listen to sport and to music during those years. When you go in here, you have been into the cells. You see there is a toilet that can flush. You see there is a shower. Even though the water was cold and salty, but you would go in there, coming from the land of the stone quarry, and also have a shower here. But then to here, where we're going to, down there, we made use of a bucket, and the only cell that still retains the bucket is that of Nelson Mandela. Nelson's cell, when you go down there, will be the 4th cell on your right when you get down there, and it's the only cell with a red bucket. Up here, every morning, they woke you up with a song all over the prison that is, what a beautiful morning, what a beautiful day. The day I walked through the gates up front, where you walk through now, I said, thank you, God. I don't have to listen to this shit anymore. 4 days out there, they rearrested me and they released me again on the 27th of November 1988, a day before my mother passed on. My mother passed on the 28th of November. From here, I was released on the 30th of May 1987. 4 days out, they rearrested me. And then, during those years, in these cells, a lot of atrocities took place too. At night, the wardens will come, they will take some of those young boys away, and then they will take them under the pretext that they will be questioned by the security police. But instead of them being questioned by the security police, those wardens went to rape them. They went to sell them to the criminals just beyond the Church of the Good Shepherd. When you go up, it will be on your right. When you come down, when you go up, it will be on your left. When you come down, it will be on your right. And then also, those men that were supposed to safeguard them were the ones that were actually destroying and ruining the lives of those young men. Most of them ended up in institutions. Some of them could not even be returned into the care of their families. And all of them are no more. Those men too, they walk out there free. We know them. We cannot charge them, because they too were granted immunity in those years when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was granting all those other criminals immunity. And then in those years too, in these cells, you were given a pot of 20 liters, 25 liters of fresh water from 1981. Prior to that, you had to drink the brackish water in here. And in here too, in those years, the dog, those waters will come at night and actually make you undressed. You stand against the wall, your hands on, and they call it trouser. And those young boys will come, they take their finish putting up your harness, and they feel if there's anything, and they shout it out, there's nothing here. And then if they did not find anything, then they'll start beating up prisoners. And in these cells too, during those years, men actually, the elderly men were made to stand naked for up to an hour in front of those uncircumcised young men. And if they could not find anything, then they start beating up prisoners here. And the only thing that we had that was illegal was when we stole newspapers from their home. We had to steal newspapers from their homes during those years, because otherwise we did not, we would have been at a loss. So we had to take that risk. But the story of this is the section. Germany occupied Southwest Africa for quite a number of years. And during the Second World War, Germany left. And then South Africa went to reoccupy Southwest Africa up until 1986. You've seen the Namibian flag down there. You've seen most of the cells have Namibian exhibitions in it. Because in those years, those Namibian men that got arrested, they were brought here. And then when they were brought here, they were kept here up until 1986. It's only then that those men could be taken back to their country. But those men had it even worse off than their South African counterparts. Because up in the lime quarry, we had to run away from the dogs. One of them jumped, broke a leg. Instead of bringing him down to the hospital section, when you go on, you see there's hospital section there where those red slips are. And they broke a leg. They made him sit in the sun for 5 consecutive days. Those wardens gave prisoners instructions to carry him back to the lime quarry until that leg was blue. And when they finally took him up back to the mainland hospital, that leg was amputated. 3 days later on, that man died. The story they spun to the family was that he had a disease, which is a lie. They refused to accept responsibility for the death of that man. And during those years, a prominent PAC leader, Johnson Lambu, and other prisoners were buried alive here on Robben Island. They were given a space to dig their own grave. And also during those years, they buried them up to their neck. It was hot. Those men begged them for water. And instead of giving them water, they urinated in their faces. And those men, only 2 of them are no more. The rest of them are alive. We meet them over in the shopping malls in Cape Town. And we see them, they do recognize you, they grimace, they do not even show a sign of remorse as what they were doing to human beings on Robben Island. Yet when we came here, Nelson, Walter, and then used to tell my son, my children, when you leave this prison, you must remember that hatred, bitterness, and anger leads to self-destruction, which is true. Because I am from that hollow. In this prison served more than 10,000 men. Only 500 of us might still be alive out there today. Most of us, the hell for the political prisoners started when they got released from Robben Island. You go there, you make an application, they interview you, and then when they see that he's an ex-political prisoner, then they tell you, we'll phone you, and those men, they phone until thy kingdom come and thy will be done. Most of our who are still alive out there today, they live in squalor, they live in utter poverty. I still visit those men who are alive, and when you get there and you don't shed a tear, then you are not human. You are just like those wardens that were here on Robben Island during those years that actually maltreated or treated black political prisoners worse than dogs on Robben Island. That is the same situation that those men out there are finding themselves in. All we are asking the current state is to look after our families, but then to restore an uphill battle. And we hope that that battle will be won before we all die. You see this face of mine? It looks normal, but in here, it is not. There are days when all those bad memories come flooding back. Then you cry, you sit down, you isolate yourself, and then the next day you come back. We had to come back and tell our own story. We could not allow a third person to come and tell our story. I came back here for the first time in 2003 to give my story to the museum. 2014, that is when I started doing tours here on Robben Island. And it's not nice repeating what you went through during those years. That is why Govan, when he said, whilst he was here on Robben Island store, to forgive the next person will never be a one-way. It will always and always shall be a two-way road. And my wish is, before I die, I'll be able to tell my family that I had forgotten, I had forgiven them, I don't hate them. But I can't forget what happened to me almost 49 years ago on this place called Robben Island. Every morning when I wake up, I'm reminded of what happened to me on this place called Robben Island 49 years ago. And my personal opinion is that I will only be able to forget the day I too close my eyes. Nelson, the longest serving prisoner, one of the longest serving prisoners, Nelson spent 27 years behind bars. But the longest serving prisoner, his name was Jafta Masangula from the Pan-African Congress. That man spent 27.5 years here. Nelson, in 1982, they transferred him from Robben Island to Paulsmoor Prison, where he spent 6.5 years. And and then from Portsmouth Prison to Victor Stay in Paarl, where he actually spent 2.5 years. And on the 11th of February 1990, they released Nelson unconditionally. In the morning, he walked through the gate at Victor Stay. I was present. When he lifted that person, he said to the world and the nation, let us build a rainbow nation. Let us reconcile. That rainbow nation of Nelson might never materialize, but reconciliation cannot be spoken about. South Africa is not yet free. South Africa still needs to be free. On that same day, Nelson said, freedom is within your hands, meaning South Africa, you are the ones that are supposed to free South Africa. What you see out there is not what men died for. What you see out there is not what men sacrificed their freedom for. What you see out there is not what Solomon Mahlangu was hanged for. What you see out there is not what men spilled their blood for. You cannot say that the country is free whilst what you fought for are still in the hands of those you fought against. Yes, political freedom we have, but economic freedom we don't have. Economic freedom still has to be attained. This prison as a whole was built on the leper graveyard, and the remains that were recovered was reburied on the other side of the fences. And then this prison was held. This prison was not a bed of roses. Are there questions? Are there questions? And I don't want you to leave here with an attitude. I repeat what I probably said to you earlier on, that a black prisoner on Robben Island was treated worse than a dog. Coloureds and Indians during those years, they were treated the way they were treated outside. So when you leave here, I don't want you to leave here looking at the other one with anger, with hatred, or bitterness. Those men will turn in their grave. There's a lot of things that we are not sharing with you. Like myself, in detention, I never had dentures. They pulled my teeth with a plier, my toenails with a plier, my feet healed here on Robben Island. Those are things that we don't tell you. But what I told you, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm telling you as it was. Because I experienced what those men experienced. When I came here in 1976, I had an afro, and then they took a pencil, rolled it in my hair. My hair did not grow back, so they classified me as a black prisoner. And 3 years later, they reclassified me as a colored. Now I'm repeating, are there questions? Are you still with me?
Thank you very much. I'm coming here for the fifth time, but it's the first time I'm getting the message that you are giving. And I'm so fascinated because you have narrated the story with passion and with zeal, and I'm so fascinated. I wish whosoever that might come also those who might come also might be in the position to get the information raw as it is as you are giving to us, such that we should realize and be able to realize that there is a lot that needs to be done to have free and fair South Africa for us to enjoy, and our kids as well. Thank you.
So, thanks for the presentation. It's most touching. You know, some of us we may feel like crying, but thanks for being strong and told us exactly what stood up during the height of apartheid. I didn't hear clearly regarding the person who killed Ferry. I see that he perished here. I just want to know that was he killed? And number two, how was the treatment? Because you mentioned that blacks were treated in this particular fashion, Indians and colored. And how was he treated? Because at the time he was a white person.
During those years, this prison was not yet under construction. I think it was under construction. And they brought him here when Nelson and them were going to live where he was kept. And then the authorities felt that he cannot be kept here amongst black prisoners because he's the only white person that was kept here. And his name was Demetrius Offenders. They took him back after 2.5 months, and on the mainland, that is where he ultimately perished. And in those years, colors and Indians, yes, it is the policy or the laws of the country that actually made black political prisoners here to be treated like dogs or worse than animals. Colors and Indians, they enjoyed the privileges that they enjoyed outside, being given that special treatment. No other question? I hope you took in what you've seen here. Where we're going to now is totally different. Down there, when we get down there, please you take your photos and then you follow me. When you get down there, you will get the wall that you'll see there. That wall was built in 77, 78 for prisoners not to communicate with one another. The vines where you see, that is where they discovered the script Long Walk to Freedom. And that script was smuggled out of prison, and that book and film is available outside. And in between the vines and the apple tree was a garden, onion, tomatoes, and peppers. Those produce were shared by prisoners who lived down here. The apple tree that you will see down there was actually planted there in memory of those who were tortured, those who were beaten, those who were humiliated down there, those who died and lived down there. And then when you go into the section, those windows in the passage there, those windows were painted, and those used to avoid sign language. And the intercom system that you will see, that intercom system was also built in 77, 78 to listen to what prisoners were doing. And you were not allowed to speak to one another down there. Here you could. Down there you were not allowed to speak to one another in the cells. Out in the courtyards, yes you could. But down there you had to resort to knocking on the wall because you were not able to see each other. And that is why they painted the windows. And knocking on the wall, in those years also it was recorded, sent to the security police. They analyzed it. And when they found anything incriminating, then they come for you, they take you back to the mainland. And some of us ended up at the gallows because of knocking on the wall, because each alphabetical number represented an alphabetical letter.
तो गाइस बाहर काफ़ी ज़्यादा गर्मी है, मगर अंदर थोड़ा कूल सिस्टम है। इधर जो प्रिजन के अंदर है वो इतनी गर्मी नहीं है। ये आगे देखते हैं, ये सारे सेल्स बने हुए हैं।
He made all the uniforms for Robben Island, as well as other prisons, and he altered the uniforms for prisoners and wardens. Okay, so one other thing to go and get measurements to make all the uniforms is they go freely around different sections. You must come back there. He deliberately messed up that you kind of played a trick on them. And when you get it, you purposely did it, and around it, and just the centimeters with us. Eventually he was given his measurements.
If I did.
ये काफ़ी मजबूत दरवाज़ा बना हुआ है। अच्छा तो गाइज़ ये इनके जो थे वो मैट्रेस आई थिंक जो इसके ऊपर ये लोग लेटते थे वो। चले अभी नेक्स्ट आगे चलते हैं। ये जिस जगह पे मैं खड़ा हूँ यहाँ पे जो है इनको प्रिजन से निकाल के धूप में सज़ा दी जाती थी। ये जो उनसे लोग थे इधर कैद में, और इधर इतनी ज़्यादा गर्मी, आप यकीन करें कि आप बिलीव नहीं कर सकते, इधर इंसान खड़ा नहीं हो सकता 2 मिनट से ज़्यादा। तो वो इन लोगों को इधर जो उनसे ना इधर ज़मीन पे बिठा देते थे बांध के। ये जो लकड़ के लगे हुए हैं, लकड़ी के, इनके साथ इनको बांध दिया जाता था।
This is the section that was first completed in 1964. This is when Nelson and Company was brought to in 1964. And when they found this script, they took him to just behind the wall and they suspended his privileges and suspended his rights. And in 1970, they brought him back here. Nelson was transferred from 1, 2, 3, 4 to 4th cell on your right. When you go in, and when you go in, give each other a fair chance. Take your photos at the gate. I'll say goodbye. You'll get to a new tour guide. Please, lastly, before we go in, I hope that a little information that I managed. Hey guys, this is the cell here for the people. It's a dimension sheet of the market that was provided. All those cells here had a market system.
hospital for those who are suffering from leprosy. So in 1887, the Leprosy Suppression Act was passed by the government at the time. So all those that were suffering from leprosy on the mainland were brought to the island, and this is where they were dumped or isolated. So when they were brought here, they were separated according to their race and according to their genders. So the gender separation was mainly to prevent them from interacting and reproducing and having children. But even though they were separated, 41 babies were born and they were healthy, but because they didn't have leprosy, so they were sent to the mainland. While the patients were here, they were not allowed to have their loved ones visit them from the mainland to the island. They were also not allowed to leave the island and go to the mainland. And also, while they were here, they died. So they died here, and many of them were buried here. Those that died here were buried here. And many of them were buried against their families' wishes, especially those that were black. Because if you do know this, in our African culture, if you die somewhere, the family, when they come pick up your remains, they also do, there's like a ceremony that is performed to fetch your spirit. So that was never done. So many people died here and they were buried here without their families' wishes or permission. And we have about 1,500 graves that you see here. There's more than just what you see. They scattered under the bushes, and where that secure prison is, it was actually built on top of graves. So when the prisoners were laying the foundation as they were building, they were digging out bones. And then later on in the years, because of a Norwegian doctor, Dr. Nick Hansen, who did research and discovered that leprosy did not transfer by touching someone who had leprosy. It only transferred by body fluids. And those that were still alive, and also because by that time they had also found the cure. So those who were still here alive, they were transferred to the other hospitals on the mainland, and this hospital closed down after nearly 90 years operating as a hospital on the island. And so after it closed down, all the buildings that were used during that time, they were destroyed and demolished, but only 3 buildings were left standing, and we'll see them as we continue with our tour. Were housed or accommodated. So while you were in prison, you saw section B, right? You were taken to section B, and you saw the single cells, and you saw the famous Mandela cell that had a red bucket. So the leaders that were kept in that section were the political freedom fighters: Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Robben Island, Ahmed Kathrada, Jeff Masemola, Adimba Doibo, who was a leader of SWAPO in Namibia. So Namibian political leaders were also housed on Robben Island. And that group in that section was the only group that was to work at the limestone quarry. So when they first started working there, it was just supposed to be a few months, but that few months ended up being 13.5 years. So that lime was first used to resurface the roads of the island and to whitewash the buildings of the island. Right hand side, so remember after the leprosy colony or hospital closed down, all the buildings that were used during that period were destroyed, but only 3 or 4 were left standing. This is to the state. It is a privately owned building. It belongs to the Anglican Church. That is why it wasn't demolished. And also it was built by male patients, and they were building it for themselves. There was a female church on the other side, but that was destroyed. Sir Herbert Baker. And this is the medium security prison, one of the 4 prisons on the island. So at the beginning, the convicts, your thieves, murderers, rapists, were together with the political freedom fighters at the maximum security prison. But when they started getting influenced, smuggling information for them, smuggling newspapers, and then they were separated. So the convicts were placed at the medium security prison, while the political freedom fighters were left at the maximum security prison. And all the buildings that you see on the island today were built in the early 1900s. So after the demolition, the island closed which was also their village. Today, the village staff of Robben Island Museum, but before, it was used by the Irish missionaries that were taking care of the leprosy patient. And after that, it was the village that the gods and the waters stayed. And this was their church, built in 1841. Another building that was one of the two oldest buildings, churches on the island. They used it as their church for their events and their services. And there was a tradition, if you can all see the pole on the roof. So whenever there was a newborn, they would fly a flag. If it was a girl, it would be a pink flag. If it was a boy, it would be a blue flag. And there would be celebrations around the village. Utilized in this building, it was called the Lunatic Female Hospital. And then during the imprisonment time, the same building was converted into a school. And this is where the children of the gods would attend their school. It continued being a school even after the island opened as a museum. So some of my colleagues' children that lived on the island at the time would also attend. And there were other kids that came from the started going down, it closed down. Now the building is being renovated. It will be a gallery soon. There is some art that was collected by Mr. Mandela over the years that will be displayed. So we already give you 5 minutes just to stretch your legs, use the bathroom.
गाइज इस जगह पे हमारी ब्रेक हुई है 5 मिनट के लिए उन्होंने। तो गाइज यहाँ पे हमारी गाड़ी रुकी है और 5 मिनट का जो है हमारे पास ब्रेक है। अगर किसी ने टॉयलेट जाना है या कोई चीज़ बाय करनी है खाने पीने के लिए तो वो यहाँ से ले सकता है। और ये इसका अमेजिंग व्यू है इस प्लेस का। ये रही हमारी बस और ये इसका व्यू है।
And then during the imprisonment time, this is where the gods, it was used as a recreation area for the gods of the violence. And then now, today as a recruitment shop for our participants. So the size of the island, where you walk around it, it is about 14 kilometers, 580 hectares big. And so where you came from this afternoon from the harbour, Cape Town, the distance from there to the island is 12 kilometers.
तो गाइज़ फाइनली हमारा जो था इसका टूर विज़िट कंप्लीट हुआ और अभी हम अपनी बस का वेट कर रहे हैं। बस पे बैठेंगे और वापस जो है वो अपनी शिप पे बैठेंगे और फिर केप टाउन के लिए रवाना होंगे।